in the presentation of this year's budget. I'm honored to be here at the board chambers to present my proposed budget for fiscal year 2011 to 12. And I want to just start off by saying that it's a pretty happy time for me because we've got a budget that's on time, that's balanced, and maybe unlike our cities either to the east or to the south, it's one that I think reflects a very, very solid cooperation with our Board of Supervisors, with our neighborhoods, with our community-based agencies, and with all of our departments. The beginning of this year, as actually late as last year, we projected a $380 million deficit. And former Mayor Gavin Newsom had set us on a course that we had to be very, very focused on this challenging budget. We did that. We followed his advice, and we worked with our departments to make sure that they came forth with what they believed would be a balanced budget. Closing this deficit, and as it became clear to us that the budget was not only challenging, but that we could make it, then each of the departments began working closer with us about how we could fill that gap. And it's not been easy. And I want to say at the outset that I want to really thank the departments for working very closely with the mayor's budget staff. It's incredible the work that you do. Being here for over 21 years, I find it still the most talented workforce, the most talented department heads and managers, but the actual workforce and their sacrifices and reflective in this budget continue to amaze me. While we're scaling back and we're really asking for real sacrifices, this budget has not been reflective of any new promises. It's actually been keeping a lot of the old promises alive. But the good thing about this budget is that there are no layoffs, at least not in a massive way. And unlike what I hear this morning, instead of closing libraries, we're reopening them. Unlike Sacramento, we are on time and we are balanced, and that despite the difficulties that we have, I see actually in this budget a lot of hope. Time and time again, I've been reminded throughout all the meetings that we've had that a budget is reflective of our values in the city. In addition to reflecting our values, I do think that this budget also represents a lot of hope. Because our city is now on the rebound already, and I can feel it, you can all feel it here. Just in the span of 6 months, we began this year with a tremendous challenge in our unemployment rate, being over 10%, 10.1% as of January. Today, that unemployment rate has gone down to 8.5%. We also recognize that our city has grown in the last 10 years, grown by over 3%. From the 776,000 to now over 805,000, and that's just residents alone. The also hopeful look that we have is we continue to attract major companies in the city, companies who want to be here. They want to be here as partners, as collaborators, and as we suggest, they want to hire San Franciscans, and we want to meet that challenge, and we want to work with them. At the beginning of this budget, I made a commitment actually to myself that I would do my best to listen to every part of this city, to all the neighborhoods, to the supervisors, and to the corridors that we held town hall meetings at. And not only would I want to listen to them, ultimately, as they impacted us, my challenge was really to listen to myself as we reflected all of the values that the city has made. And as I have been chosen as the interim mayor, I also wanted to make a commitment that I would not make any interim decisions on this budget, that we had a big challenge to not only create a foundation for years to come, but that we would make sure that we had a budget that would reflect long-term investments and a long-term financial health for this city. So we set out a course to collaborate with as many people as possible, and to make sure that our budget was reflective of what San Francisco knows how to do, that is collaborate and to build consensus. And so we held over 10 budget town hall meetings. We met hundreds of residents, community organizations. We met with city commissioners, labor organizations for sure, business owners, and activists. And throughout all of those meetings, we were able to shift some $28 million in changes to the budget as a result of those meetings. This budget not only reflects our values, it is about the future of our city. And you've heard, all of those that you've attended the budget town hall meetings and the meetings with our community-based agencies, you've heard my speech already about a safe, a solvent, and a successful city. You need not hear from me today again about that goal. But I do want you to hear from people who I think are our challenge and reflective of our city. So I want to invite up to the podium today 3 people, 3 students who will talk to you in their own terms about how they feel a city can be safe, a city that can be solvent, and a city that can be successful. And if I may invite Zach Parker to please step forward to the podium. Zach is 8 years old. He's going into the 4th grade at Sherman Elementary School. He likes playing basketball and drawing. He'll be visiting Yosemite and his family in Oregon over the summer and attending summer camps. Thank you, Zach, for coming today, and he is joined by his mom, Michelle. Go ahead, Zach.
Hello, my name is Zachary Parker, and I go to Sherman Elementary School. Safe. When Mayor Lee says that he wants the city to be safe, the word safe means more than one thing. Students like me should feel safe in our neighborhoods when we walk to school, play outside, or go shopping with our parents. The word safe also means that we should also help people who need food, a doctor, or a place to sleep. The whole city is stronger when we make sure we can all feel safe. Today, we are hearing about how we can grow a stronger, healthier, safer San Francisco for all our city's families and children.
Thanks, Zach. Next, to talk about a solvent city, I would like to invite Matana Singh Gallant, who is 11 years old and just graduated from Harvey Milk Civil Rights Academy. She would be going into the 6th grade at Everett Middle School this fall. She likes horseback riding and reading. She will also be going to camps and taking some road trips by bus this summer. She is joined today by her mom, Ashana.
My name is Matana Singh Gallant. I just graduated from Harvey Milk Civil Rights Academy. I will be going to 6th grade next year at Everett Middle School. Solvent. Students in my school work very hard every day. We are planning for our future. What comes next for us? 6th grade, 7th grade, and preschool and high school. Same way Mayor Lee is planning for San Francisco's future. He's not just planning for what happens in 5 years now, not just today. Just like I am, I'm studying hard to invest in my future, so in 5 years, I'll be in high school. Mayor Lee is planning for 5 years down the road, too, to make sure that San Francisco is what he calls solvent. It means we are working together to make sure we can afford and not only spend what we can afford.
Thank you. Thank you. And finally, I'd like to invite up to the podium Lorenzo Tamayo, who just turned 13 years old this week. He is going into the 8th grade at James Lick Middle School and plans to go to Lowell High School. Lorenzo enjoys playing basketball for his school and with his buddies. He plans to attend camps and visit his sister at Evergreen College this summer. He is joined by his father, William.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Board of Supervisors. My name is Lorenzo Smiley, and I'm an 8th grader at James Lick Middle School. Successful. San Francisco students should be proud to live, study, and learn in one of the best cities in the world. When students come to graduate from high school or college, they should be able to stay right here in San Francisco if they want to.
For that to happen, our city has to have jobs for people like me, people who grew up here in San Francisco and want to stay here in San Francisco. Businesses from all over the world want to come here because they know that this city is where the best workers in the world come to learn and live. To be a successful city, it goes beyond just keeping businesses here. San Francisco needs to work hard to keep families here and make the city a place where people want to raise their kids. The city has an opportunity to provide a good foundation of quality educations, jobs, programs that strengthen families. Even though the whole country is struggling with the economy, our city is working hard and investing in a successful future for all San Franciscans.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Matana. And thank you, Lorenzo, for helping us and remind us that we can be a safe, solvent, and successful city while we balance our budget. As earlier stated, our city is reflected in being a safe city, and that challenge has been formidable. Despite the financial concerns, this budget reflects no layoffs of police officers or firefighters. Yet we will still face the challenge of a public safety realignment when the state makes its actions. I want to thank Chief Greg Sir, because from the very start, he has worked with me upon his appointment to make sure that our police department was acting accordingly and making sure that it would bring its financial house in order. And so from the very beginning, he has already cut off over $1 million in their financing with actions made at the management level. And I'm sure that with his leadership and the leadership that it represents to our fire department and our nurses, that we are optimistic and appreciative that the additional ask of more than $20 million is anticipated to come, and we want to thank them for that great sacrifice, the police, the fire, and the nurses, for considering our proposal and helping balance the budget and to keep our city safe. While our public safety departments consider the request, we acknowledge that it is a great sacrifice that's being made, especially in light of the fact that for 2 years in a row, that ask has been made over and over again, and we understand how great sacrifice it is. At the same time, when we defined, as Zachary did, that safety also means that we keep a very critical level of social services intact. We know that without that degree of social services in place, the officers on the street would have a harder job. And so we went about making sure that our social safety net was intact by meeting hourly and weekly with our community-based organizations. And with that, we reprioritized funding to support meals for our seniors, our drop-in centers for the homeless, our residential mental health and substance abuse programs, and domestic violence prevention programs. Some $13 million was shifted as a result of these meetings to make sure that we kept our city safe with critical core services. In addition to that, I want to especially thank the directors of our Public Health Department and our Human Services Agency, because without their effort, we would have not also found some $39 million in new federal dollars to expand our capacity for our healthcare system in preparation for President's healthcare changes that are forthcoming, and an additional $16 million in state and federal revenue for basic safety net programs such as food stamps, foster care, adoption and employment programs for low-income adults and families. This will keep our city safe. As we went about figuring out how to make sure our city was solvent, we spent some time making sure that everybody understood this was no longer a budget for 1 year, that we are starting to plan with 5-year financial planning. And even as we know that our economy may be recovering, we understood that costs were going faster than revenues. And that is why we set about looking at our financial planning for 5 years. To address this, we've asked for shared sacrifices. And that is why you've heard earlier, a few weeks ago, that we introduced our pension reform. That is the critical part of our solvency in this city. And I want to take, again, this opportunity to thank all of our labor leaders in this city, because you have shown us again and again how we can work as a city to build consensus, to collaborate, and to make sure those pension costs are kept within our means. Thank you again, labor, for being such a great partner in working with us. We've also wanted to pay attention to our revenue side to make sure that our house was solvent. And so we are introducing today, as we have discussed in earlier weeks, a sales tax that will help us recover from whatever the state of California cannot accomplish. So I will entitle this to be a recovery sales tax. As all of you know, Governor Brown is attempting to extend the sales tax to make sure that the programs in the state can be continued to be funded. We would like to introduce a local sales tax as an insurance, and only as an insurance, to make sure that if Governor Brown and the state of California is not able to extend that tax, either with its failure to be introduced or the failure at the election in November, that we will offer not an additional tax, not a new tax, but a tax to recover 1/2 cent of the 1 cent increase, or the 1 cent stabilization. So on July 1st, should the sales tax drop from 9.5% to 8.5%, and should the state be unable to extend that tax, our sales tax would ask the public by 2/3 vote to bring an approval for a local 1/2 cent sales tax, bringing the sales tax to 9%. It would only take effect if the sales reduction fails to go through, or does go through, and the state tax is unable to be extended. This is a safety valve. It is one that will protect the core city services against the uncertainty in Sacramento. And it is a smart way of doing it, because we cannot sit idly by and watch what Sacramento is unable or fails to do. We will not be at their whim. We have to protect our own services. And still, even with this 1/2 cent sales tax extension, we will still keep a healthy level of reserves. Reserves that total $67.6 million, representing general funds reserves, general state reserves, our children's fund, and our rainy day fund that we continue to support our school district with. That will keep our city solvent. Finally, we tasked ourselves with what Lorenzo talked about earlier, is how to continue making the city successful. And I want you to know that we understand that our city is no longer a stagnant city. It is a growing city. It is a city that's population is growing, that companies want to come here, they want to employ our residents, they want to help us grow. And so we have focused on what we could do to sustain those jobs and make sure our city is successful. We have our America's Cup that is slated to occur here in 2013. What a wonderful opportunity to continue to make that event grow it is no longer a national event. It is an international event and reminds us how much we are as an international city. We continue to embrace our local hire program, and thanks to the Board of Supervisors, I am working extremely hard to make sure it is not just construction, but we have a spirit of local hire in every company that locates here. We have apprenticeship programs reflected in our budget that will allow our Department of Public Works, our Recreation and Parks Department, our Environmental Department to work together to make sure that we hire as many people as possible to fill our apprenticeship programs as we get ready for a resurgence in the building of San Francisco. I pledge to continue working with the supervisors on the neighborhood commercial corridor program because through all of the meetings that we've had, our neighborhood commercial corridors are as important as our downtown commercial corridors. And I understand that and will continue working with you on it. And we are again reminded with the successful level of tourism that we have in the city and with the recent international powwow that our own San Francisco Travel Agency and our Visitors Convention Bureau sponsored successfully, we will continue partnering with our local hotels to make sure that our best foots are forward whenever the tourists are here because they continue to be our #1 revenue generating source of income. And then to make sure that we continue reminding everybody that as this budget reflects a successful city, our success also is reflected in our international stature, that we continue to welcome all who want to come, whether they want to live here, whether they want to work here, and whether they want to be a part of the successful city. We are an international city. And with that, we will continue investing in our capital program. This budget reflects over $308 million in capital investment, primarily in our enterprise departments. We also will introduce, with the board's cooperation, a $248 million investment in our streets. We are finally getting into our streets, and we are sure this time around with the leadership of our Board of Supervisors in cooperation with our citizenry, we will get these streets repaved. This submission of the budget is not an end at all. We've worked really hard with our budget office, with members of the staffs of each of the Board of Supervisors, with the budget staffs of the departments, with their commissioners, and ultimately and most importantly, with our community and community-based organizations. This is not an end of the process, it's the beginning, but we had hoped that this would signal a new way of doing things, a more enlightened way to present our budget and to work at the front end to resolve problems and not at the back end. I want to recognize Supervisor Carmen Chu for being with me on so many of the budget meetings and making sure we get an early start, and that I look forward to working with the Supervisor Chu on her leadership at the board and with each and every member of the Board of Supervisors as we go forth this month. I also want to recognize the Budget Office, and I won't name them because they have been very important players in our new process. Leo Chi, Manish Goyal, Melissa Howard, Rebecca Krell, Jonathan Lyons, Dee Schecknader, of course Greg Wagner, Megan Wallace, Renee Willett, Rick Wilson, and certainly from, thank you. And certainly from members of my own office, I want to thank Steve Kawa, Kate Howard, and Star Terrell for their excellent work and cooperation. From the Controller's Office, of course, Ben Rosenfield, Monique Zamuda, and the Controller's Budget and Analysis Division. Thank you very much, Controller Rosenfield. And I do want to thank Mr. Harvey Rose in advance, because I know that our cooperation will be integral to continuing the good cooperation we've had with the Board of Supervisors, and to make sure that we make adjustments accordingly, and to make sure our continued effort to make sure we have a balanced budget in place. Thank you, Mr. Rose, for your anticipated cooperation. I want to thank Michelle, Ishana, and William for being great parents of our kids as we look forward to making sure that our budget is not only balanced, but continues to reflect the values of the city, the future of the city. I want to thank each of the Board of Supervisors. As I've enjoyed working with you on this budget, and as we've met individually, we have the future of the city at our hands, and I will continue enjoying working with you to make sure that future is bright, that we have a great foundation for this, and that we keep the city family as tight as together. To all the departments, thank you again for working with me. To all of the elected officials for all of your support, and to the audience and to members of the public, I never grew tired of all these budget town hall meetings as I got to listen to the care and to the interest, to the passion that people have for their neighborhoods. Thank you very much for working together with me. This is the introduction of our budget, and I thank everyone for their cooperation. Thank you.